hour of CBS Sports HQ, presented by Capital One. Joe Musso here to captain this fantastic voyage. Stops along the way will include best bets, winning picks across the bigs, and cutoff day #1 at the FedEx Cup playoffs. But we begin, as we will most Sundays from now until told otherwise. NFL football on tap, with the Vikings and the Raiders offering a preseason look. So come along for the ride. Bring your overreactions. Vegas' new dynamic duo will be in the building, but new head coach Josh McDaniels was non-committal regarding whether or not his starting quarterback and top target will see any type of tick. Carr was 5th in passing yards a season ago in the face of turmoil and a thinning receiving core, but the Adams addition has the arrow pointed up in Sin City. Meanwhile, Vikings starting QB Kirk Cousins is a confirmed no-go after testing positive for COVID on Thursday. Joining us now to get into the Sunday swing of things, CBS draft expert and NFL analyst Ryan Wilson. Ryan, it's that delicate dance right now between keeping your guys fresh and still getting them some live looks. The old first half of Game 3 approach seems to be dated as well. Game 2 here for the Raiders, Game 1 for the Vikes. How much Carr and Adams do you hope to see here this afternoon?
Yeah, that's going to be the question. I think Josh McDaniels, the first-year head coach, took a page out of the old Bill Belichick playbook when he said, I don't know who's playing, and I'm sure he said it with tongue planted firmly in cheek. So we understand what's going on there. He's not saying much, which is sort of weird because Bill Belichick actually told us that the starters weren't playing in New England a few days ago. But I don't think we'll see a lot of Carr. Maybe one series. It's been a mixed bag across the league in terms of veterans playing. We've seen some of these young starters, like Trey Lance, for example, see a good part of the field, and we understand why. There's no reason to rush Carr out there. Last week, the backups did pretty well. Jarrett Stidham, who came over, in a sense, with Josh McDaniels from New England, he did pretty well. We'll see more of him for sure. And Davante Adams is another example of a player. Do we need to see him and see what he can do? No. And I don't know if it makes sense to give him preseason reps when prior to this year, Saquon Barkley never played in the preseason. Prior to this year, Justin Herbert never played in the preseason. I think you can apply that to these players as well on that side of the ball because there's no real upside. There's certainly a downside. We've seen a smattering of injuries, serious and less so, around the league this last week. Zach Wilson among them. But I think if you're Josh McDaniels, you know what you have, and you're willing to see what the other players can do who are trying to make that final 53.
Yeah, there is some long-term data starting to emerge that suggests that these guys do need contact before week 1, but where you find that contact, perhaps on the practice field, is a little bit more beneficial. We do know that most of these first stringers, what they are at this point, and the reality of the situation remains, especially for that 2019 draft class who approached this contractual crossroads. Josh Jacobs specifically here, a product of that Gruden-Mayock board, saw a drop-off in production last season. He's looking for that payday, but in terms of what we'll see here on Sunday, lots of experience and talent under him on that depth chart as well. Who's going to headline the backfield here for the Raiders on Sunday?
Yeah, a quick note about that draft class that you mentioned. Cleve Farrell went top 5. He hasn't quite worked as an edge rusher. Jonathan Abram, the safety, hasn't quite worked out. And you mentioned Jacobs, of course. None of those guys got their fifth-year options put forward to them, so they could be spending their last years in Las Vegas. Behind Jacobs, however, Zamir White. That's a name to watch out of Georgia. He's between the tackles bruiser. He's had a great camp. He played at Georgia with James Cook, Dalvin's brother, who is shining for the Buffalo Bills now. He went in the second round as more of a pass catcher than a running back, but I think Zamir White is sort of the complete package in what you're looking for in an NFL running back. He can do a little bit of everything. He can catch the ball if you need him to. He runs hard. He's a big back. He can pass protect, which will get him on the field in third down. And we'll see what this means for Jacobs. Last week in the Hall of Fame game, Josh McDaniels ran Jacobs to the ground. Got a lot of people's attention because it seemed weird for a starter, and I think that might be the divisional labor we're looking at going forward. Again, with Zamir White perhaps getting a fair share of his carries and perhaps at one point maybe overtaking Jacobs in that starting role. But whatever it ends up being, it's just a better option for Derek Carr in that backfield to go along those playmakers that we've been talking about already.
It has been and likely will be one of the more closely contested divisions in football, Ryan. Last season, postseason tickets punched as the clock struck 0 in the final week of this season. What are realistic expectations for this group in Las Vegas, specifically this head coach in his second crack at the head man gig?
Yeah, you feel like Josh McDaniels learned his lesson from his first go-round in Denver over a decade ago, where he tried to put his stamp on that Broncos team. It went well to start, and then it went horribly, horribly wrong. And a year and a half later, he was out of a job. He's been with New England primarily for that last decade, sort of learning from his mistakes, and I think he understands what's at stake now. The good news is he's gone to a really good football team, one that plays in the toughest division in the galaxy, but also one that made the playoffs. And you touched on it, Joe. They had a chance to tie that game in Week 18 with the Chargers, and both those teams would have gone. It worked out where the Raiders were able to win that game on the field goal, and I think they're going to carry the momentum into this year. Are they better on paper now than they were 4 or 5 or 6 months ago? I think they are, and I think the coaching is going to be a little bit better, although perhaps Bisaccia was treated unfairly. That's how the league works, but I think with the offensive scheme they're going to have, that defense is going to be improved. Chandler Jones is now there. They have a chance to compete. It's going to be tough to get back to the playoffs, but between you and me and everyone who's watching, I think this team finishes better than the Denver Broncos. I have some concerns about the Broncos in terms of the Russ Wilson transition from Seattle to all his new teammates, whereas I feel that this could be much smoother. Big year for Derek Carr. We know BMAC loves Derek Carr. And a big year for Davante Adams, who's now reunited with his college teammate in Derek Carr from Fresno State.
Yeah, we might not be in the majority, but I'm leading that direction with you in terms of this Las Vegas Raiders team. We'll get a glimpse here against the Vikings.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.